Good morning. I was just, I'm sitting here doing a couple of chores here, but I thought I would chat with you while I do that. I was watching a video about brain rot because of AIs. People using AIs so they don't have to think. You know, we know employers are using AIs like crazy, and so now people are using them in interviews. So employers are probably going to try to find ways to make sure that you can't use, that they can use AI during your interview, but you can't. So, but the point of having it substitute for your own thinking process is a serious issue. Some teachers are lamenting that AI is not being used in a way that even is remotely ethical. Okay, so how could you use AI in a way that would help you think? Okay, it's never been against the rules in education to have a study partner, for example. So instead of trying to use AI as somebody who did all the work for you, it's actually pretty simple to use it as a study partner. You can go through text this works especially well if you're reading text on a screen. If your class has a lot of text on the screen, as you go through that text and you read it, give it to your favorite AI. Start a conversation. Give the text that you're reading to AI in chunks as you read it. And then when you get to a quiz, read the question yourself. Okay? Then give the question to AI, but give it the following instruction. Say, I want you to answer this question, but do not make it appear to be from AI. Leave me some room to improve your answer. So please give me an answer and suggest improvements to it. It will then give you an answer, and then it will rate its own answer and say, well, this answer is missing this or that. Then look at the answer that it gave and rewrite it. Okay? So to give you kind of a starting point, but you can decide from that starting point, does it match your interpretation of the material? Now, I know this takes a little work. This is not necessarily a shortcut, but it's how you can use it as a study partner to catalyze your own thinking. Okay? So it will, give you a suggestion of how its answer could be improved. So as you're rewriting the answer in your own words, add those improvements or add something else. You as a human, if you're really engaging with that material and you're following along, you should maybe come up with a couple of ideas of your own, different things you would like to emphasize. So go ahead and emphasize those different things as you rewrite what it said. And then use it as a way to make sure you included everything. And then take your answer and ask your AI, rate my answer, please. And then it will take your answer then and give it a rating. And it may still suggest, it may give it an 8 out of 10, and it may suggest an improvement. You could decide whether or not you want to rewrite your answer to include the improvement. And maybe you won't, or maybe it'll spur more thinking. So this way of using AI in kind of an iterative approach is a way to really engage as if you had a study partner, not somebody you're just cribbing your answers from whole scale. But this way you fully engage with it, and as you improve the answer, it will probably increase the rating for your answer. Then you can feel like you've worked with the material, you've mastered it to some degree. The only real way to really learn material is, of course, to get out in the real world and use that material somehow. But sometimes that may not be possible when you're in the when you're in the learning phase. You're learning new skills to go out and use in the world, hopefully. Hopefully all the classes you're taking are very tailored to teach you things you can start using in the real world. That's always the learning I've preferred best. If you're dealing with very theoretical subjects, you may need to modify this a little bit. You have to be able to work with the material and understand what's going on to be able to use it as a study partner. So anyhow, hope you like this tip. Comment down below if you've tried this tip, if it's worked for you, or if you have any suggestions on how to improve this idea. Best luck to you. There's a lot of talk back and forth about whether AI is a good thing or a bad thing. Some people are scared of it. I just look at it as an evolution. We started carving things on clay tablets. We made up very angular writing styles and called cuneiform, because it was easy to carve with a stylus onto a clay tablet. And then I think eventually somebody discovered papyrus and dipping bird quills into ink. And then, we had fountain pens, and then we had ballpoint pens, and then we had better and better paper. And, then eventually somebody figured out a word processor. And word processors were figured out after very simple text editors. And keyboards were invented, and typewriters, and, then eventually word processors were invented. And then spreadsheets were invented. Spreadsheets were a very handy device, because you had parts of the paper that did things with stuff you put in other parts of the paper. You could list a column of numbers, and then there'd be one part of the paper that would automatically sum up the numbers above it. And the calculations that they were capable of doing got more and more and more complex. And it's an incredible tool. You could still do all those things by hand, okay? And I guess that's my point with using ChatGPT or other AIs. This technique works particularly well with Grok, but ask the AI to not give you a perfect answer, to give you an answer that leaves you room to improve it and suggest what you might do to improve it. This is one of the power techniques of using AIs. I was just watching a video that says that people don't want to Google things anymore. When the AIs go down, everybody has a fit, because then nobody knows how to live life. Nobody knows how to bake a cake. And one commenter was commenting, call your grandma. She'd probably love to hear from you. And I bet she's got a recipe that didn't require AI to tell her exactly what to do. But people don't want to Google things. They want things step by step. But I've watched the evolution of search engines. I was there before there was a Google, getting patents for technology I was developing to search the internet. And my patents have been quoted by hundreds of other patents. My patents have been used as resources. But I've watched people put one or two words into the prompt and then be upset that Google didn't find. Because the Google search bar, that's a prompt. We've been prompting for years. This is not something new with AI. And people put just one or two words in and go, oh, wow, the company intranet search is terrible. I've had managers say this. And it's like, no, it's actually really good if you don't expect the computer to read your mind. Software engineers have been trying to perfect the processor statement, read user's mind, and we just can't get it right. So it all depends on how much you put in the prompt, okay? If you just put, I want a cougar in the prompt, or cougar in the prompt, what are you talking about? Are you talking about the car? Are you talking about the animal? Are you talking about the dating partner? It doesn't know if you only put that one word in. Now, people get creeped out about systems remembering a history. So if it saw you doing searches for various kinds of cats, then it's going to assume when you type cougar, you're meaning the animal because it's looking at your history. But then people complain, they get creeped out that systems remember their history. Well, systems are trying to make up for the fact that we are lazy with how we use these tools. And like it's always been, prompting is an art, okay? But do it in a way that engages your brain. Don't expect everything to come that you want from the first prompt. Iterate, improve the prompt. Think about what you can do that's related to the prompt, okay? When I research laughter, I just don't go to a medical database and only type in laughter and expect to get everything I want. I go into the database and I say, tell me about the research on laughter and how it affects blood pressure, okay? That gets me a much more specific response. And that gets me things that wouldn't come from just searching for laughter alone, okay? And then I'll look at various aspects related to blood pressure. I'll read that first set of studies that comes back. And then maybe I'll search for laughter and vasodilation, or laughter and cortisol, laughter and adrenaline, things like this. So I get more specific, make more specific prompts, and then I can learn more about it. And so I try to spend some time exploring like that. So again, don't expect it to do all your work, and it doesn't have to. And it can strengthen your brain. And then just sometimes write something of your own after you've spent some time exploring a topic with the help of Google, with the help of an AI. Write down your own synthesis in your own words. Well, that's my own words. I mean, George Carlin talked about that when they tell you, say it in your own words. Really? And most of the words in this video I've borrowed from somebody else. They're not my own words. But I'll give you a few more that are. Well, anyhow, you get the point. Anyhow, use the AI, engage with it, and just sometimes ask it, don't tell me everything you need to know. Suggest how I can learn more about this. And at the end of a session where you're learning about something, where you write your own little summary, a kind of a journaling habit can be good. Write down your own thing about it, just in your own words, a few minutes later. That will really help your brain absorb the information. And then using the AIs and using the search engines, it doesn't have to be a terrible thing. Because everybody's lamenting about the AIs, people use the AIs, people were lamenting about Google. Okay? I've been in this industry 30 years now. Okay? And I've been working with computers even longer. I was working with AI systems 10, 15 years before there was even a Google. Okay? There's been all kinds of waves of AI technology, and I've worked with all of them. But you do it in a way that enhances your brain. There used to be a kind of AI that was very popular called an expert system. And I was fascinated in my youth with driving around motorcycles. And I wanted to make an AI, an expert system, that could diagnose motorcycle issues. I thought there could be a real market for this. But one of the big challenges back then was to get an expert to really put their knowledge in a form that could be put in the computer. If you have and this was a big deal in stock market trading, to try to develop trading algorithms, and all kind of gurus teaching you trading things. But sometimes the experts would say, well, you got to follow your gut. Follow your gut. Well, no, wrong. Follow your gut. I got a different gut than you. And now we know all about that. It's called a microbiome. And it can influence our thoughts. So the idiom, trust your gut, it's not nonsense. There's actually some science behind that. We've all heard of the mind-body connection. Well, we now know that maybe 60-70% of the connections are the other direction. Things like what goes on in your gut, all the things living in your gut, they send signals to the rest of your body. There's some people who say your gut has a memory to it. I don't know about that. I've not studied into that extensively, but it makes sense because your body can learn how to quickly react to things as a reflex. That is solid neuroscience. Our brains by nature are lazy. If we can develop a habit so that we can do something without thinking, the brain is a habit-making machine so that it can execute things that you want to do without having to spend a lot of time thinking about it, okay? So the idea that your gut and stuff informs that process, okay? A lot of the neural computing to happen to enable you to do things like to balance while walking and things like that happen in the spine. They don't even go all the way to the brain. So you know the brain is very good at our systems are very good at pushing things down, and the brain's very good at delegating things to other parts of the system, so that it doesn't have to be concerned about every little detail. Okay, so you know, again, with using the prompts and things like that, you know, or using the expert systems, it was tough to get experts to figure out when they say, well, just tell you, you know, trade on it, you know, what does your gut tell you about the trade? Wrong, you haven't given me a trading pattern. You've just given yourself an out if what you've told me to do doesn't work. You didn't have the right gut reaction. No, you didn't tell me what that was to compute, because a lot of times experts don't even understand these things. There are certain things that happen in somebody who's trained themselves to an expert level where it's hard for them to elucidate it, to teach others, okay? So this brings up another very powerful way to learn material. After you spent time exploring something to learn something, try to explain it to someone else. Learn to explain things in a way that other people can understand, in a way that hopefully they find interesting. Because if you can learn to do this, this will improve your use of the language. And if you write these things down and do this as a regular exercise, it will help you improve your writing abilities. And the ability to communicate is one of the things that sets us apart as humans from all the other animals. Now, my cats communicate with me regularly. They have quite a vocabulary of actions and vocalizations that they do, but they probably can't describe quantum physics to me. But we can, you know. So one of the things that is common to every exceptionally rewarding activity, economically rewarding activities that we can do, and we get economic rewards from serving others, okay? Almost all of them involve communication. The better you can communicate, the better you will do with being able to economically prosper in this world. So anyhow, covered a lot of topics here. So use your AIs or your Google prompts in a way that leaves you room to learn more. With the AIs, ask them to give you an answer that needs improvement. Engage with that material. Make it your own by improving the answer, rewriting out all of the answer that you were given. Add on those improvements. Ask it to rate yourself to see if there's anything else you can do to improve the answer. Maybe go through another draft where you improve it. And journal about what you've learned, okay? And try to explain it to someone else. Someone who's kind of interesting. Go, did you know? It's a great hook, you know. And you know, then you really learn the material. And then it's available for you when you actually need to use it, okay? So anyhow, this is your Laughing Chaplain, Garnet. Thanks for letting me share a few thoughts this morning. I got to get on about my day. And I wish you blessings and joy. Don't forget to laugh. The world is a funny place. There's plenty of reasons to laugh, to improve our dopamine, to improve our serotonin. When we laugh, that's the key God gave us to unlock the medicine cabinet He put in our brains. Down in the instructions will be, or down in the description, when I upload this, I'll give you a link to my resource center on laughter and laughing techniques and all about the science of laughter. I've got some extra things you can enroll in, how to be a more joyful hairstylist. Well, that applies for barbers, dog groomers too. How to be a better caregiver, and then my first written book on laughter called Taste of Joy. So check out down in the description a link to that. Subscribe so you can hear about all my new stuff that I'm putting online. And blessings, happiness, peace, and joy to you. Bye-bye. This is Garnet, your laughing chaplain.